Well, hello. Hi there. I'm going to sit on a different stool just for a sec. Got to turn this off. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the show. Welcome to Guitar Country Live. I meant to count these at some point, and I never did, but I'm going to play guitar for just a second until other people show up. I'm so out of breath. Yeah, so this is a guitar that showed up. Oh, boy. So if you guys follow the Acoustic show, the Acoustic shop, I literally just finished doing their podcast 45 minutes ago or so. But check this thing out. This is a Thompson, and I feel like it's pretty fair to say that if your last name is Thompson, you don't get to make guitars, or at least have a guitar that just says Thompson, because this is now like the fourth or fifth player or company that I know that is Thompson. So this is a Bob Thompson. And more, I'll make a video on this at some point. All right, hang on. Let me put this back up, and then we'll get started. Tell me where you're coming from. What's your deal? Who are you? What do you like about guitars? And, yeah, let's party. Happy Friday also. It's a good day. Why are you freaking out? Okay, there we go. So, all right, people are coming in. 16 comments already. Hello. Oh, Rasmus was here 2 days ago. Hi, Rasmus from 2 days ago. You've been texting me today, so I'm sure you're around. Hey-oh, Daniel from Philly says, tried sending you a screenshot of a Craigslist to your form, but it couldn't access it? Okay. Yeah, let's go back to this screen. This was what I was doing. Starting shortly, Jeremy is frantically stressing about something not working properly, which happens every single time. So yeah, I don't know why the form didn't work. I used it the same way we did it last week, and we had 30 couple people on the forums last week. So anyway, Hux Raft. Hey, that's a good name. Nobody wants these, so I'm hoping this live chat won't light up the gas. Yeah, that's true. I feel like we're gonna be pretty good. Yeah, podcasters, they're coming for sure. Joshua Thaxton, hello, buddy. Alden Wilkins says, scared the hell out of me. What did I do? What? Hey, Uncle Left Eye. That's a good name. Chris Stonebreaker. Hey, buddy. Greetings from Ottawa, Mr. Patty Paystub himself. Oof. That's nice. What is it? That is a Bob Thompson. It's basically a 28, but so it's a herringbone red spruce top, torrefied red spruce top, East Indian rosewood back and sides. That one has really thin bracing, and then they cut the braces and they do thin strips of carbon fiber to help with reducing the size of the braces, but to give strength. It's a freaking cannon of a guitar. Sonia's here. Hey, Sonia. Greetings from a very windy and cold northern New Jersey. I feel like it's supposed to snow tomorrow. Yesterday, it was like 78 degrees here in Virginia. So it was great. So Tucker Pridemore has just recently discovered your channel. I wrestled, currently coach, and teach special education. Absolutely blew my mind when I discovered your channel because we have such a similar background. Wow, that's really incredible. Yeah, I was a wrestler. I coached soccer for a while. I majored in special education, and I never actually taught. I mean, I taught in student teaching, but I was never professionally. I paid good money to be a teacher all of those years, and I was never paid once to be. I was a substitute teacher for a bit. But anyway, I'll check their podcast when this is over. Feeling topsy-turvy today. Dude, I'm literally going from thing to thing to thing to thing today. So today, I finished making the titles I did as much of the titles as I could for this. I went to the guitar shop. We did an Instagram live for Hometown on all the new cymbals that we got. Then I forgot that I was doing the Acoustic Shop podcast. I ran back here and did the podcast. And so we finished that. I had like a 30-40 minute break to catch up with my family for a couple minutes, and then I ran back out here, and now we're doing this live show. And then while I was here, all of the Eastman guitars just showed up over at Hometown. So if you've seen the Instagram story in the last little bit. So I'm going to run back over there, and we'll do another Instagram live on the Hometown Facebook page, opening up some Eastmans. So anyway, yeah, just running from stuff today. So Darcel, hey buddy. Darcel says, good afternoon, everyone. Tuning in from upstate New York. All right, Kelly and I talked on the phone earlier today. Hey man, I'm glad you're here. So, no gas from this video? Maybe. I hope that this doesn't turn out like, I think a lot of the JHS show, like their stuff ends up just being, you watch a video and then you realize like, oh man, nobody wants those. And those are actually great. I should buy one. And then we make a run on it. So that's not the intention of this video. Mr. Kelly Lee. Somebody else from Josh Thaxton from South Carolina. South Carolina. HB saying hello there from KY. Love the channel D28 here. That's awesome. Hey. No? Is it N-O-E? How do you pronounce that? No from Mexico? Hello, buddy. Glad you're here. Stan Step. Thomas. I'm just going to run through everyone. Gabriel from Ensenada, Baja. That's Dr. Asensio. All right. That's awesome. If I maximize this, do I get to see the chat? I don't. Okay. Oh, Mr. Zach Lemasters watching from Harrisburg, PA. Watch the videos, Austin. Cool to catch you live. Hey, man. So Zach and I grew up together. We learned to play guitar around the same time and played on a lot of worship things. Like, I don't know if we necessarily played together, but we would play, like, I would do one service, he would do another service. But Zach, dude, I'm glad you're here. I saw your dad. Believe it or not, I saw him at the gym. So Mr. Kevin Boyle, new subscriber here. Love your channel. You inspire me to play more. Dude, that's great. I hope you play a ton. I hope that it just fills your life and your heart and you become super creative and you make music and you make new friends. That's the thing I want for all of us. So Noah. Oh, got it. Noah. Awesome. Noah, I'm glad you're here. Thanks for watching. And hello from New Brunswick, Canada. Randy and Donna Lewis. It's Canada. I know. Okay. Well, oh man. Okay. Brandon Williams, Mr. Brandon Williams himself, says the interesting follow-up to this video should be the top 10 guitars no one should want yet continue to purchase. Well, that's problematic. That gets me in trouble. Believe it or not, YouTubers, brands don't like it. Sorry, that sounds condescending. I have to be very careful how I say this. Brands will take legal action if you say things that they don't like. I can say that. And it's happened. So yeah, you just have to be careful. So Geert, hello. Geert Jan Blanken from the Netherlands. Hello, man. How are you? We got a couple Netherlanders here. So yeah, live show today is going to be fun. And, we're just going to go through. Now this is, I feel like a couple things I need to say about this list. Number one, it's in no particular order. Number two, it is completely anecdotal. Number three, it is meant to be entertaining. If you own one of these guitars, I'm not saying that no one wants it and you're a bad person for owning it. And I'm also trying to not pick on. This list will also disproportionately affect beginner guitars, because a lot of these guitars that I ended up finding are guitars that really belong to beginners that just didn't stick with it. So, of course, those are the guitars nobody wants, because those are the guitars that their mom bought for them when they're going to learn responsibility and you're going to take lessons and you're going to play for your uncle at Christmas. That's the stuff that I'm trying to not disproportionately pick on. So there are more electric guitars on this list than acoustic guitars, which is good, but there's still some real stinkers. So anyway, oh boy. Joe says, I bet Ovation is on this list. I love my balladeer, but by the way. Okay, so I'll break you off a little secret. Ovation is on this list. But exciting thing with Ovation, I have 2 videos coming up with Ovation. We kind of sealed the deal this week. So Ovation has relaunched a couple of their guitars. So the Adamas. So I'm going to get one of the nice high-end handmade Adamas that are made in Connecticut or New Hampshire, Vermont, one of those states up that way. And yeah, so they will be on the list. And so they're relaunching the Adamas. I'm going to get one of those to do a demo. I don't get to keep that one. They're like $4,000. So I don't get to keep that one in exchange for a video. But I do get to keep, they're going to send me one of the Ultras, the brand new Ovation Ultra, which they're fun colors, they're X-braced, they're torrified tops, they're still the bowl backs. So it'll be interesting. They had watched my videos. It was a kind of not an awkward call, but it was like, hey, I've picked on these guitars. They're not my thing, but they fixed 2 of, Hartford, Connecticut. That's what it is. Thank you. Yeah, so they fixed my main complaints with them. The biggest complaint I had was the X-bracing, or being fan-braced, where it's like they're all just going to crack up. They can't handle that amount of tension. So, excuse me. I'm very interested to try them. So, anyway, love my legend, but needs work. Yeah. Yamaha bought Guild, for real? Yeah, I got an email from the dealer side of life saying that happened, because we are a Yamaha dealer at Hometown Music, so I'm hoping and praying that could happen. Also, I mean, there is some stuff planning to happen with me and Guild guitars this year, so that's exciting. So what's this one? Reeling, rocking, and rolling. Hey, Jeremy, what do you know about Moniker guitars from Austin? Do they have any resale value? I don't know Moniker guitars. I'll have to check it out. Yeah, weird that Cordoba would sell it off. Yeah, so I have heard inside info that just Guild stuff, it's been a rough time. So I don't know. Yeah, poor brand keeps getting victimized by the corporate hot potato. Yeah, I mean, as you can tell, like, I love Guilds. But they mean different things at different times. Yeah, I think Randy says I think it's a good thing. Or Donna, I don't know who this is. I think it's a good idea about Guild. Yeah, I would agree. Like, I don't hate it. So I don't know. I'm cautiously optimistic because Yamaha is doing excellent work with their acoustic guitars. So, yeah. So, with all that said, okay, what is it? This list is not necessarily in order. It is not complete. It is anecdotal at best. It's meant for entertainment. Any other qualifiers about my list? There's no personal offense intended if your guitar is on here. So, with all of that said, let's jump into it. Now, there are a couple people were able to send it through the forum, so I'll jump over to those here in a bit. But let's go ahead and start walking through the easy one. We can all agree on this one, right? No one wants a Gibson with robot tuners. Let's see, I have to scooch. I'm going to move over this way so you can see. I can put my hand behind the titles. So Gibson Les Paul with robo tuners. They've done this. I think this is the 4th time. This most recent roundabout of like really forcing people to buy the robot tuners. And they just don't work well. They're noisy, they're inefficient, and people like to tune their own guitars. If you want to be a handmade guitar, you need to be able to work it with your hands. So, yeah, I mean, it's interesting to me how many of these things just really tanked. And this was, I mean, Rhett Scholl says that this was the video that really blew up his channel. He and I spoke, the first time Rhett and I talked on the phone was maybe a few months after. I think he did this video in the summer, and then I did my video in the fall of 18 talking about his video was WTF Gibson, and mine was I'm quitting reverb. And so, but his video was all about this, which is like, Gibson, what are you doing? This is not what people want. Because at the time they were even putting these on the traditionals, like a traditional Les Paul with robot tuners. So pretty much everything got it. These are kind of old news. They're kind of awful. But yeah, Oh, Ryan, let's talk about that. Let's talk about that. Let's do it now. I'll turn this off. So nobody wants your Blue Ridge BR280. Totally sucks. So if you don't know what a Blue Ridge 280 is, the BR280, that is a dreadnought. It's basically a D45 clone, with the exception of the headstock is very much. Sorry, I gave up coffee for Lent, so I've had like no caffeine. I've had a low-level headache the last couple days. So anyway, making space for holiness. But my brain is sleepy and not working the way that it does when I have caffeine coursing through my veins. Okay, so a Blue Ridge BR280 is a dreadnought. It is it's Brazilian rosewood back and sides, right? Is that yours? Brazilian rosewood back and sides? Yeah, I'm going to come down here and make sure. I'm going to see if you're responding. Okay, so Brazilian rosewood back and sides, and it's usually a red spruce top or Adirondack spruce top. Now, the problem that they have is that they are, they do polyurethane finishes even on the real fancy stuff. So this guitar was expensive, not crazy. Like, it was in the 2000s, right? Yeah. Yeah, man. So, yeah, God made coffee to drink, absolutely. But also, yeah, so one of the practices of Lent is you give up good things. Like, you don't have to give up bad things. You give up really good things that make space for you to pick up new disciplines. So anyway, so for me, I give up my coffee so that in that time I'm reminded that like good things come from, anyway, that good things come from the Lord, and then I read scripture during that time and I pray. So anyway, so nobody wants your BR280. That's interesting. I mean, I'm sure somebody wants it, but probably not for the price that you want. So I don't know can I scoot up this way? I feel weird leaning back so far. Maybe that's why I'm yawning so much, is that I'm like in a comfortable position. All right, well, here's a totally wild one. Let's go to this one. This one came from Tom Dill, one of my favorite patrons and friends. He makes the world go round and the channel grow. He's been a patron for a long time. So Tom, thank you for sending this. And this one is completely insane. This is a Fender Wildwood. This one's from 1968. And this is Fender trying to bring some of the features that brought all of the cool things about their electric guitars. Holy boy. Into their electric guitars. And so as they did the stuff with the acoustic guitars, I mean, they did a bunch of weird things with this. So let's talk about all these things on this guitar. So number one, the back, how it's right here. Right. Oh, it's so impossible to point right here. So with that one, what's going on with this is that this is a Norwegian or Finnish process of how they would dye woods. And so what they would do is they would put ink into the roots, and then it would get sucked up through the tree. And then when they mill the tree, you get this streaky ink, pigment-filled spaces in the... Ooh, I kicked the tripod. Sorry. But this was a really cool feature, but it was probably just a little too much, a little too fast. Fender, I mean, believe it or not, Fender's never been good at making acoustic guitars. And so with this one, it was just too far of a split. Now, the other thing that's really hard to tell, you can't quite see in this, is that the neck was a bolt-on like a Stratocaster. And so it's basically, this is kind of a Strat neck bolted onto a guitar with 4 long screws going through the neck block of the guitar. I should give up on acoustic guitars for Lent. Lol. Yeah. Yeah, Morgan says doesn't count. You barely play your you barely play your J180. You have such a cool guitar. You might have to commit 2 acoustics for Lent. Okay. So looks like the landscape from The Last of Us. I don't watch that show. I don't know. What does that mean? But so this one, they ended up, it was very cool. These did not sell very well, and they don't play well. They don't sound good. So, kind of the perfect trifecta. Like, they were expensive when they were new. They did not hold their value. They do not look good. They do not sound good. They do not play well. Whatever Venn diagram that would be, this guitar lives in the center of all of those. Bob, hey buddy, glad you're here. Thanks for watching. Also, if you have burning questions, the super chats are way easier for me to see other than like the string of comments. Now, I don't want that to sound like I'm asking for money or rattling the can, but if you have a burning question, you can always do a super chat. Those are way easier to see, and those directly support the channel. So anyway, all right, number three thing, let's go ahead and talk about this. Esteban guitars, they are turds rolled in dog hair. They are awful. They were a shameless power grab. I think that dude's a straight con man. They are awful guitars. And so they're all over Craigslist. You can see them because they marketed really heavily to people that never play guitar that felt like they missed their chance. If you could get this, you could play like Esteban. And so, man, it was just shameless the way that they pushed these for so long. And so it really drives me crazy. So Esteban guitars, big womp womp. So, and yeah, those aren't guitars. That's firewood. It's true. But you'd feel bad for burning all the plastic finish, all that polyurethane that they have on the outside. These are like absolutely, they were just a con. And the same thing is true. Now, they're different with the Yamaha made ones, but the first round of the Urban guitars from Keith Urban, those were just straight up terrible. And that's where it's like, it feels like deeply unethical that they would have sold those. I would be ashamed to have my name on it. And maybe these deals just go sideways as you start rolling them out and you start realizing like, hey, by the time we're doing this collaboration and people are doing this project together, there's, the guitar is not going to be good. But at some point you just need to like pull it and just say like, I'm not going to put my name on this thing. So those are genuinely terrible. Yeah, I remember that. Sonia says she remembers the Esteban commercials late at night. I do too. My dad always watched them and then asked me if I wanted one. And by that time, I was already playing guitar and I had an Alvarez, like an RD8, I think, at the time, or an RD30. God, seriously, I'm so tired. Okay, yeah, Esteban. Yep. And also, the absolute worst guitar that Martin has ever made, and I will fight anyone that disagrees, is the Martin Backpacker. This is awful. It is terrible. The neck is terrible. The neck spacing is terrible. The sound of this thing is awful. The resale value is terrible. You can find this reliably on every Craigslist in the country. Someone is selling them. But somehow they're both selling it, and they say that it's a surprisingly great guitar, and you should love it. But why are you selling it, Mr. What's a Thule name? I don't want to pick a name in case it's somebody's name in here. Jeremy, that's a Thule name. All right. Oh, hey. Oh, How do I do this one? This one has multiple. Ibanez Geo guitars. These are also on the list because now this one is probably disproportionately represented. But this is somebody that wanted a starter guitar, and these have always been around like $199 to $299, maybe $250. They're just middle of the road. A lot of these come with kits, so they come with an amp and a strap and a cable and all that stuff. These are, they can be okay, but you just see these. Like, I feel like you always see a black on black Ibanez that is covered in dog hair that someone is asking so much money for. And, they're saying like, $225 comes with amplifier. It's usually somebody, it's like their mom or their aunt is like selling this on behalf of them. So anyway, oh yeah, had one. You ain't wrong about which one, the Esteban or the other one. 40 Watt Podcast is here. Hey, Philip. There's zero good things about those Martin Backpackers. Yeah, they're genuinely terrible. What did Morgan say? Shots fired by Morgan. Morgan. D45 is so much worse. Yeah, right. Yeah, K acoustics are the sound of traditional Delta blues. It is true. They definitely get that boxy, really kind of dry sound. But man, they really, so many of them just play so poorly. And reliably, one backpacker for sale by Temple University. Yeah, they were just reliably for sale everywhere. Yeah, okay, so there are some really cool redeeming things. Sonia talks about the blade head. I haven't heard that phrase, but I love that. I mean, it's a very interesting and cool headstock. I think, oh, let me show you a thing. Where did I put it? So my friend Craig, one of my patrons, made me a super cool thing. Let me show you this. Where did I put it? Where did I put it? Here it is. So Craig made this. Let me see if I can get it to where... Oh, hang on. Got to turn that guy off. So Craig had this made for me. So it says, Jeremy the Guitar Hunter. So I'm trying to find a place to put it. But there's some headstocks in here that are pretty recognizable. So here's an Ibanez one. Oh, hang on. If I can see my face, it'll focus on it. But if I can stay back here. Hide. So this one's pretty much an Ibanez. There's a Martin. Here's a Music Man, basically, with 4 and 2. Then you get some other stuff. There's a V. There's a CBS Strat. There's another Gibson-y thing. And then, what is this one? This really kind of banana-shaped one. Kind of a Parker. But... thanks, Craig, for sending that. It's a super cool gift. I just have to figure out where I'm going to put it in here because my wall space has filled up. Also, I'm building a lighting rig in the next week or so. So anyway, yeah, these kinds of guitars, you're going to see them kind of everywhere. And here's the thing. I want to draw attention to this thing down here at the bottom. And I'm saying and student guitars. Because if you would just look at like... when you look through Reverb, if you look through eBay at the oldest listings, like the things that have been listed forever are like all of the student guitars. And a lot of factors go into that. Probably the likelihood of how few people stick with it or how many people didn't stay with that guitar. They moved up to another guitar and then they're going to sell their first guitars. So, Zach, you were literally who I was thinking about this because you had that blue one. Which it's a great guitar, and dude, I'm super glad that you have it. But I think a lot of people that have that guitar end up moving off, like they'll trade it away or they'll give it to somebody that's learning how to play, and so it ends up just being this like they're out there and they're for sale and there's plentiful. And then the other component is how many of them. Yeah, so. Gareth says, so far I've owned the Geo and the S1. How about this? Whoever has owned the most of these things by the end wins a t-shirt or a hat. I have hats now. I meant to show them to you. They're amazing. I have like 5 different versions of the hat. And yeah, so I'm not big on those Geo guitars, but the basses aren't bad. Yeah, I had an Ibanez bass for a minute back in the old days. So Joshua says you can get a Baxendale mod on the K's, right? You can. I mean, it's like $1,400, I think, that's what Scott told me a couple weeks ago. So yeah. So, I mean, you'd be real deep into it. You would have that guitar for the rest of your life. All right, the next one, Carvin guitars. Carvin guitars are mail order. They've never had dealers. They've always sold direct. And because of that, they have people who really believe in them. They have genuine converts that think that they are the best guitars they've ever had. Now, it is also true. Okay, so here's the thing. Almost every guitar builder, their price, they're building in 45% profit that they will give to they'll give to a shop. That's not always the case. Sometimes it's less, rarely is it more. But 45% down to 30%, they're giving to a dealer. So if they don't have dealers, they can just sell it to you directly at that price. So that's how Orangewood, they have the same business model. So that's how they can sell you a $1,200 guitar for $700. Is that they don't have a huge overhead and they're not having to share. So they're still getting paid the same amount. Now, for that, they are now having to deal with like customer service on their own. But Carvin has always been there where they have true converts that just love them and think that they're amazing. And they want to talk about them and they want to make sure you know how great they are. But when they go to sell them, they're just not worth that much. I've heard this. So Carvin is now Kiesel. Love Carvin. So that's interesting and good to know. Kiesel they've done well and they've rebranded. Now Kiesel now has dealers, right? So, yeah. Alden has two of them so far. You've never heard of Carvin? Yeah. I mean, some are made in the U.S. Most of them were made in China, Indonesia, Korea, all that stuff. Okay, so yeah, David says today Carvin is Kiesel. My daughter's orchestra teacher loves these. Interesting. I've heard a lot about them. So Kiesels can be great, but a lot of people have made some epic errors in custom orders that make them harder to sell. Yeah, that's the other part is there isn't an infrastructure. There is not an infrastructure of people that would want a used Carvin because so many people, they are used to the full customization or customability. Is that a word? Of going direct to Carvin. So it just makes it hard to sell. I've had several Carvin guitar amps and several Carvin guitars, and they've all been really, really hard to sell. It's been the hardest one. Yeah, when I was in New Orleans, I had a Carvin 120 watt head with a 412 cabinet, and it was just so hard. So yeah, okay. So yeah, I think Carvin guitars are one of those that you see them, and literally as I couldn't figure out my list, I started going through, like, I was just picking random towns in the U.S. So in this one, I found not this exact one, but I found several Carvins for sale on the St. Louis, on Craigslist in St. Louis. I just picked at random. So Carvin guitars. Oh, here's one. Probably the most polarizing finish I can think of is Antigua. Now, I wasn't necessarily thinking of just this guitar itself, but I was thinking of it is both the Fender Coronados, all of the semi-hollows, and also this finish. And just semi-hollow Starcasters, which Starcasters have come around and they have become cool, but there was a long time that Starcasters were hard to find and no one wanted them and no one paid attention. So then if you're like, hey, have you ever seen a Starcaster? They'd be like, I don't know. So, yeah. Yeah, with Carvins, they're mostly custom built, so it's hard to find one. It's kind of like if you ever are into custom motorcycles and you have somebody that's customized things that are just too much, where you're like, well, I am not the shape of that person or the size of that person. What the heck is that Starcaster? So this is a Coronado, but I can show you a Starcaster. Let me open up another tab. I would never. No way. So we're looking up Starcasters. Okay. Okay. So here is a Starcaster. So wide range humbuckers, and then hang on, I have to remember this switching. It's master volume. Hang on, there's 5 switches, but it's a volume, 2 volumes, 2 tones. Is the other one a blend? Like you can blend the pickups together? I forget. It's been a long time since I've looked at these. Maybe it'll say in the description. It's a good looking guitar now. I've only played a handful of these. Probably less than 10 of these I've played. They're a bolt-on neck, so they're not quite like a 335. And then they have this gigantic headstock. This has the most neck dive of any guitar I've ever played. And so that was really kind of the main problem with them. And holy moly, those are freaking coat hangers. Look how thick those frets are. Some big old boys. Yeah. Look at that case. That case has such a weird custom. What a weird case. Okay. So This is, let's see if they tell us. Tell me more. Shipped from Europe. Okay. Holy cow, they're asking $6,800. Okay. Semi-hollow, blah, blah, blah. Sunburst, Seth Lever, wide range pickups. Okay, it doesn't tell us the controls. Doesn't matter. And I'm not giving Reverb another second of my time. So, I think that these are all going to be hard to sell, these hollow bodies, even in, like, they're hot right now, but man, oh man, are they difficult to sell. And they are just going to fall really hard out of fashion. Same thing is true with Chet Atkins. They've come and gone in popularity in my lifetime. They were really cool when I started, and then they completely died. And no one wanted one for a long time. And, yeah. Oh, yes. Yeah. That's a really good point. Not to be confused with the super cheap Squire Starcaster. That made that mistake once. It's really hard, and it's really unfortunate that they used that name. I understand Starcaster. It is somewhat similar to Stratocaster, but it does definitely cause some confusion. Tom, you made it. We just talked about this one. Actually inspired Tom. We talked about. Let me go back. So this is the one that Tom sent. So this is the Wildwood. And so the Wildwood is when they injected the ink into the trees. But this guitar, yeah, like I said earlier, it doesn't play well. Doesn't look that cool because also the lacquer finishes have aged pretty yellow on these. So anyway, Tom, I'm glad you're here, buddy. I hate that they reused the Tone Master name for the new solid state amps too. It was a custom shop tube amp in the 90s. It is. And it's not technically a solid state amp. It's a digital amp. But I get what you're saying. It is. I mean, maybe have they run out of names? Starcaster, Broadcaster, Telecaster, Jazzmaster. What are the other unusual names? Yeah. Yes, that's such a confusing one. I hate that the Mustang is both a guitar and an amp line. Isn't that confusing? It really, really is. Morgan and I bought an under $150 Squire Telly back in the pandemic. It was shockingly excellent right out of the box. I still ended up with custom shops. I still ended up with custom shops, but they were absolutely worth the money. And a car. What? Hold on. Worth the money and a car. Okay, I don't know. Yeah, it's funny how it's confusing with these lines, especially with the more value-driven lines. They end up kind of giving weird names. So the Coronados and all of those, they're all weird and wonky and funky, and right now they're cool, but as soon as some other band shows up and they're not playing those, these are going to fall back out of being cool. And I think what usually happens is that we get this cyclical thing of like, it's cool, so a guitar dealership finds it, and then they sell it to somebody, and then that person thinks that they're so cool, and then they trade it on something else, and then they sell it, and the guitar shop gets it. And so it keeps going back and forth between a player and a guitar shop. And then most of the time, the last person getting caught holding the bag is the guitar shops. So then guitar shops are in them for $24,000, and then they have to wait years and years and years to break even, maybe not even with interest, with keeping up with inflation. So it's wild. So, all right, here's another one. And again, not to pick disproportionately on anybody, but let's talk about Peavey and the EXP. These are guitars. There's a handful of American made. Now some of these were American made. Most of them were not. Most of them were made in China or Indonesia or Korea. These guitars, were the closest thing Peavey ever got to really trying to go after like Fender tones. And so with this, it's still a humbucker, but it's basically a Nashville Telly. And they're a fun guitar to play. They're really comfortable. But these, I mean, reliably, you can find these for $125 to $150 on most Craigslist across the U.S. And it really is wild to me. And so... Oh, got it. You're talking about Mustangs or cars. Mustangs are cars. Telecasters, thankfully, are not. I drive a Telecaster. So Fender keeps reusing names and often gets original but popular after the cheap rebrand fails. and it causes so much confusion. That's really, really true. So yeah, so the PVAXP, I mean, there's also, I mean, I didn't put them on this list, but because now lots of people want them, like the PVT 40s and T60s. The T60s, man, they are so heavy and they're so unique. They have like cast lead bridges and saddles. Like they're the heaviest guitars I've ever played. Like 15 pounds. It is probably not 15 pounds, but it feels like it. That's a good question. How much does a PV T60 weigh? What? I don't believe it. It says 8 pounds, 12 ounces. That was like a blonde one. Bill's Music in Catonsville, Maryland. So anyway, yeah, these PVs, man, they do a thing. Yeah, I feel like they're good value for money. Like I have a PV Falcon over here. That's a cool guitar, super heavy, made by PV, and man, it is like all in. You know, best of days, it is $200, $250, something like that. What, Joe? Your first electric was a PV Falcon, and I hated it. Your video on the Falcon let me know it wasn't just my fault. Yeah, here it is. Oh my gosh, it's so heavy. I was trying to sell this in the guitar shop for a while, and nobody wanted it. So I brought it back. I took it out of inventory from the store. And so now it's back to being here in mine. So yeah, so there is, come on. So there's a PV Falcon. And mine is a 3 single coils with a locking trim. And it's so heavy. Ooh, I have a scale. I'm going to weigh this one. Hang on one sec. Okay, here we go. Okay. £8 9 ounces. All right. Well, I thought I could hold and show you, but okay. Comparing that to my Strat, to my Tom DeLonge, which is 7 pounds 10 ounces. Comparing that to a 335. You guys haven't seen this one yet. 8 pounds 6 ounces. Anyway. There's 2 T60s available locally to me right now. Of course, man. In Mississippi. For sure. Somebody paid rent with that thing. There are 2 T60s available locally to me right now. $800 and $1,000. The $800 one is 10 plus pounds if it's an ounce. PV Forenzas are good guitars. Can be found for decent prices. Hello from cold Montana, Mr. Howard Haynes himself. Hey, buddy. What is so bad about the Falcon? It's not bad. It's heavy. Yeah. So 8 pounds 9 ounces. That's a big baby. It is. Yeah. So heavy guitar. I really like the PV Falcon. We got it set up really well. Steven at Hometown set it up for me. It still has Migas Touch pickups in it, which are like, it's a jarring guitar to hear and see because it sounds super spanky, wonderful 50s, like very intense Strat pickups. And then it looks like a kind of shreddy metal guitar. So I just bought a can of spray paint and I'm going to make it graffiti yellow. And it's going to be great. So I guess it's not so cold. We made it to 0 degrees at 12:45 p.m. Yeah, we're the opposite. It was like 78, 79 degrees here yesterday. And but it's supposed to snow tomorrow. So the trim and intonation were incredibly hard to set for a beginner. Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's whoever sold a locking trim to a beginner deserves to be tarred and feathered. And hi from Kansas City. Hey, buddy. David. So I've got a couple more here. Another one that I just see everywhere, and I've had a change of heart on these, but Seagull acoustic guitars. They're not for the faint of heart. They have a hard neck to play. They often have high action, but they're incredibly good sounding guitars. These, I feel like they give Yamaha kind of a run for their money. Really good sounding guitar. They're kind of everywhere. They're pretty affordable. You can find them, I didn't check too closely today, but for a long time, $250, $350, you could find one of these pretty reliably. And they're going to be, some of them are solid back and sides. I think the S6, which is the most common one, I think that's a laminate back and sides. And but yeah, so Seagull acoustics, they don't suck. I really like the tone of the one that I did in Nashville that I restrung and gave some TLC. But yeah, man, they're kind of everywhere, and they get sold a lot. And maybe this is also what it is. These are also really sold to a lot of beginners, and the beginners just either don't stick with it or they move up. When they move up, they probably trade off, and then those get sold to other people that are maybe half-heartedly learning how to play, and then they just give up. So they end up just kind of being shown again over and over and over for other people. So yeah, Sonia says, I never liked the headstock on the Seagulls, just can't get past it. It's a lot. And by a lot, I mean it's very little. Like, it just does not spark joy for me. I don't like the way it is. I don't know. I can see the advantages, like you get more of a straight string pull, but the headstock itself, it's just so small. Wow. Nathan says, in 2002, I had an old Washburn D10. A friend of mine had a Seagull, and I thought the Seagull was the best guitar ever made in comparison. Ooh, that's interesting. You would get so much more bass and low end for sure coming off of a Seagull. It's that cedar top. It's how they brace their guitars. But I bet your Washburn played better. Yeah, so like my roommate had a Washburn D10, one of the big headstock ones. And I really liked it. And yeah. So I don't know if I would ever own a Washburn. It's a brand that I don't enjoy. Now, anyway, well, I feel like I have to bend myself into pretzels to feel like I would. I'm like looking for the exception. Oh, I get one of the late 1800s, like when they were made in Chicago. But anyway, yeah, Washburns aren't my thing. They're not on this list, surprisingly. So yeah, just can't get over the headstock on the Seagulls. Yeah, me either. Some of them are better. Some of them are a little prettier. And the necks aren't beginner friendly, but they do sound good. Yeah, I totally agree. Seagulls do have cedar tops. Some have spruce, but most of the ones that I've played, end up having cedar tops. ESP guitars, Kramers, Charvels. I don't know. I found all of those. People have those have faithful followings. I didn't put Dean guitars on this list, and I probably should have. Dean guitars, to me, I'm like, if I walk into a shop and I see Dean or J. Tercer or like some of those brands, I'm out. I do not care. Rogue, all of those just don't get me at all. So, On the Road Again says, hey, Jeremy, do you know the rough value of an excellent condition 1959 Gibson ES 125, please? I know you're an acoustic guy, but I saw you sold a few 125s in a video. Just got your ebook. Thanks. Oh, thanks for buying the ebook. That's super exciting. Okay, so I can give you the value of the two that I sold. I sold a 56 and a 57 that were like very clean and in the original Lifton cases and just really cool. Those I sold one for $2,350 and one for $2,500. Both are great. So I think that's the most that those are going to be worth in a long time, in my opinion, because for the last 20 years that I've been in the guitar world, those have been $1,000 to $1,200. So I feel like they've doubled in value. I don't think they're going to double again soon. Neil says, loved your recent video on the Larrivee, another fine Canadian that needs more exposure. Canadian guitar brand, not Canadian that needs exposure. What kind of show are you watching? Yeah, man, I love Larrivees. And that one went to my friend Sam, and I've gotten a couple videos from Sam and his wife that he's just living his best life playing music, and he's been playing guitar. So he played a guitar a lot in college, and then they've had kids, and he started a bunch of businesses, and he's just been busy. But they just had some life kind of open up, and so they wanted to take care of each other. So we got Sam an amazing, amazing guitar. Much better guitar than he would ever get himself. So, yeah. The 1960s Kent knockoffs of the Gibson ES were terrible. That's true. I almost put some of those on here, but yeah, I didn't. I got a Rogue bass at the Musician's Friend outlet store when I was there in Kansas City. Sadly, it's not more. Yeah, I mean, the basses were better than the guitars. A friend of mine that played in a worship band with me had a Rogue bass, and I always thought it was fine. Yeah, it worked out. It worked out well. It had a good flat neck. Man, those Larrivee SD 40 12-fret dreads look nice. Ooh, I want to reach out to Sweetwater and see if they would send me one of those. Tom says, if Seagull would consider changing neck shape, it would really help their brand. I think so too. They're really committed to, it is a hard neck shape. It's a U shape, or like a capital D, and it's really, really hard to play. Speaking of Canadians that need more exposure, found JP Cormier, and my, where have I been? Dude, JP's hilarious and funny. I talked to him a couple months ago. We keep meaning to get together when he's coming through, but just, him being a touring musician, things keep changing around. So yes, so Larrivees are made in California now. They moved, I don't know exactly when they moved. I would bet in the 2000s sometime, maybe 2010s. They moved. All right, so Tech says, I had a Korean-made Washburn in 1994, and I did fine until 1995 when I got a Taylor 614 CE. I've seen those Kent knockoffs. In the 1980s, Larrivee made body through braces with a razor blade headstock that never caught on. Interesting. I've seen those because they make like a telly thing now that has a similar kind of headstock. Rate Teats on acoustic guitars, please. Okay, I'll reach out to him, see if I can get one, and yeah. Let me make a note to myself. Okie doke. Alrighty, back over here. Hold on. There was a comment that I just saw, and it moved. Hey, Nathan, join String Theory. Wednesdays at 6 p.m. Easy Time JP show. Yeah, he's awesome, and they're hilarious. They have so much fun. So Kramer says, has anyone seen Larrivee's solid bodies? I actually think they're not half bad at all. The telly I tried played really well. I played one a few years ago, and they definitely worked out. Oh, yeah, Yamaki. That's really interesting. The Yamaki made Martin knockoffs in the 70s. Did they sell in the U.S. as well as Canada? I've heard of them. I've not seen them. But there's also, there are many of the Gill or the Martin copies that I didn't necessarily put on this list today. I remember there was a cult following for Silver Creek guitars. They were made overseas, all solid wood for cheap. Yeah, I've heard of those as well. What's the other one? There's a handful that came out of the guys from Two Hippies. There's like a super, super cheap brand they make. And they ended up using wood that wasn't properly dried. And so I think they had an above 50% failure rate. Could you imagine? Like, if over half of the guitars that come back to you, if over half the guitars end up violently cracking up. So, yeah. Okay, I've got one more. And I bet you saw it coming from a mile away. but on most, on most Craigslist across the country, you're going to see Ovations. And you're lucky if they're not cracked up. Now, not all Ovations are terrible. I think Ovations are difficult to play, but they sound really cool. And they are like one of the first companies to really effectively offer an acoustic electric kind of guitar. And so they really are going for someone that is playing and performing live. They have 3 versions. They have a deep bowl, a mid bowl, and a shallow bowl. The old ones are pretty much all ladder braced, and that's the biggest problem in my opinion, is that just that bracing pattern was not meant for steel strings, and so you end up just cracking up the top really badly. So if you can find one that's not cracked up, you're in tall cotton. And I've got some of the new ones coming up that have X bracing and torrified spruce tops. So should be a really exciting guitar. But for me, if I see this, I'm just going to keep scrolling on Craigslist. So there it is. I got my last thought in there about Ovation guitars. Great Divide. That's what it was. Sam Chung got it. Yeah, Great Divide. Oh, a Court. Yeah, that's not a bad one. Oh, I played a Court and I thought it was horrible. Yeah, I get that. Bob Dylan played a Washburn on stage live with the Grateful Dead, and it was on YouTube's kind of like Nuno's Sig. Yeah. So my first acoustic guitar was a Sigma GCS 6 with the letter Sigma that always looked like a sideways M. Still like that guitar. That's cool. Great Divide. Yeah. So that was the one that over 50% came back. But Steven at the shop has one, and his sounds excellent. And I think brand new, they were like $400 or something. Yeah, plastic and humidity don't do well in low humidity. Ain't that the truth? So they do still have the plastic bowls. So, I mean, they are committed to that. Now, they're also doing some round shoulder and some other, like, normal kind of dreads and acoustic guitars because they're now owned by a German company. Yeah, because they're no longer Cayman Music or Kaman. How do you pronounce it? Kaman, Kaman. Kramer says, I've never found an Ovation that I like, but I also think of them as guitars for elementary music teachers. Interesting. Yeah, that's pretty much the Ovation I have fan braced. I remember Ovations being a big deal years ago. Basically not anything anymore. Yeah, I think they're working pretty hard to change that and bring it back. And so I'm excited to give them a try and give them a fair shake. It's interesting when I ask them, like, who is your competition? Like, what guitar are you trying to, like, if your buyer doesn't buy yours, what are they going to buy? And they said, like, the Taylor T5, the Fender Acoustasonic, or that's another one. Acoustasonic is also their amplifiers. Confusing. Thoughts on Tacomas and the Budget Olympia brand? I see them popping up more. I love Tacoma guitars. I wish I owned more. They had a huge failure rate on their lacquer as well, so that's a problem for them. But I think they sound great. I always wanted to own one. I never did. I wish that I would have. Yeah, I've never owned a single Tacoma, but I really enjoy them. My friend has an Ovation Adamas with a carbon fiber back in the 90s. It looked cool, but the bowl made me sit in an uncomfortable angle, even with a strap. Yeah, they always end up kind of like rolling out, and you're like playing like flat with your shoulder like dropped down too much. So, yeah. Emphasis on the K. Cayman. Got it. Like the South American alligator. Alrighty. Ooh. You have a Tacoma Thunder Chief and a Papoose. That's a good duo, because the Thunder Chief is like the big baritone, and then the Papoose is the tiny short scale thing. That's a fun duo. I remember seeing a bunch of Great Divide guitars come out down here to Florida, and every dealer that I know carried them and talked about them. Sad to see. I love Bedell guitars. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what happened. Well, I mean, I know what happened. I don't know why it happened. But it turned out really, really rough. So, anyway. I knew someone that had an Applause that had a plastic neck and a metal fretboard. Whoa, that's wild. John says, my Ovation is a 12 fret, slotted headstock, an inch and 7/8 nut. Ooh, that's a wide boy. That's a cool guitar. I love guitars. I am completely willing to have my opinions be changed. But I just haven't enjoyed Ovations in my experiences yet. I mean, at the same time, I have a Gibson Southern Jumbo up there with an inch and 9/16 nut, and it kills me. Like, there are other guitar brands that I love that I just can't get into certain guitars. So, Garrison was a Canadian-made acoustic with a unique injection-molded ribs and frame that the tone woods were then inserted to. Decent, cheap, and oh yes, and then Gibson purchased them and shut them down. Yeah, my friend in that restringing video, the how many guitars can I restring in an hour? My friend Todd has a Garrison that he plays, and it's great. Oh yeah, Esteban was 1,000% on this list. Okay, we got a t-shirt to give away. So when you think back over this list of guitars that I've talked about over the last year, who owned the most of these in here, and are we still friends? 2 questions. So I'll give you a quick recap. So keep track. Let me know how many of these you had. Okay, this is tea from this morning. I'm going to drink it. Ooh, it was mint tea from this morning. Okay, so number 1, the Fender Wildwood 6. This is a weird one. I doubt if anybody's had this one. Guitar number 1 if you've owned. Number 2, a Gibson with robot tuners. Number 3, an Esteban. Number 4, Martin Backpacker. Number 5, an Ibanez Geo or a student level, that kind of guitar. Number 6, a Carvin guitar. Number 7, a Coronado or a Fender hollow body. This is number 7. PVE XP. Number 8, a Seagull acoustic. Number 9, Ovations. So who scored the most? Who's owned the most of these personally? And are we still friends? Zero. There you go. Doing all right. Uncle Left Eye had 3. Can anybody beat 3? I have an I've been had. I call them I've been had. That's funny. I can't say that. I'm an Ibanez dealer. We just did our committing order for this year. And I mean, Ibanez makes plenty of really good guitars, especially all the shreddy metal stuff. Like, they're pretty much the best in that for all that stuff. So 2, still friends. Good. Thank you, Joe. All right. So, Uncle, what is it? Uncle Left Eye or something? Uncle Left Eye. You win. You got 3. So 3 of my top 10, and I hope we're still friends. I will send you a t-shirt. So if you can email me, info@jeremysheppard.com. info@jeremysheppard.com. And I'll send you a free t-shirt. So, yeah. Thanks for hanging out, everybody, today. Now, I have to go do more live content. So, if you want, go over to Hometown Music. It's on Instagram. It's the Hometown Music. And we're going to open some Estebans. Oh, my gosh. We will be opening 0 Estebans. We will be opening Eastman's guitars. Eastman guitars. So I'm going to go over there. We've got things I know that we have. We have an E1 OM, an E1D. We have some PCH, some of their affordable dreadnoughts. We have an E6 SS. That's the one I'm probably the most excited about. We also have a TA386, which is a 335 kind of thing. So come hang out. Yeah. So, all right. Thanks for hanging out. Yeah, that was definitely a Freudian slip. 0 Estebans will be open. But thanks for watching. Make sure you hit a thumbs up and make sure you're subscribed. Thank you for watching this video. I'm Jeremy. I'm the Guitar Hunter, and let's go fill the world with music and friendship. Bada bing, bada boom. See you later.